Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your gracious host and guide along the way. And today we are rounding off this Nick Difatte November here on the way, and with the second of the two episodes about secrets. More secrets with Nick Difatte, but secrets is a huge topic, and secrets is, of course, completely integral to what magic is. The reality of magic is always dual with the method and the effect that's going on. Something below is making a picture, a beautiful story at the top, more beautiful than reality itself. And secrets are integral to that. We dive into all kinds of awesome aspects of this, and it ends up with Nick saying, we're going to need to have one more episode where we talk about the grey areas of secrets. And so, rich topic. And on a more personal note, I have had the pleasure of recording a whole bunch of episodes together with my good friend Jay Gilligan, who's also a friend of It's Connected. This whole podcast is completely interconnected. The only people that I talk to are the people that I know, pretty much. So you hear Jay Gilligan mentioned, I believe, today. And so in December, the next few episodes that are coming up, it will be me and Jay Gilligan. So it'll be I don't know if that's not quite a sort of alliterative. Jay Gilligan December here on the way. I don't know. Anyway, it rings. We had a theme now in October, which was love. And we had 3 episodes because turned out there was 3 Tuesdays in that month for us to release on. Being every second week, and then in Nick Difatte November we've had 2 episodes, as you know, and then we have 2 more in December, where we're using as an excuse, I guess, or using prompts from episodes about play. But having just recorded those episodes with Jay over the last few days here, they really touched on some deep and important questions. It is interesting how when we talk, even though we start out from just these little snippets that he cut out, how recursive it is that we talk our way about all completely different things than in the episodes about play. Yet we are again and again struck by how many of the themes that and where the question sort of ends up, how that leads into the next questions that Jay has. So it's been interesting to have these really deep conversations, because there's definitely a part of me that when I haven't spoken to Jay or to people like Nick, which I haven't spoken to Nick for a while, so I'm so glad that these episodes are coming out, and there will be more episodes coming out. He just talked about he had the worst gig of his life the other day, and he mentioned that maybe we could even talk about that. So maybe we should do a 3rd episode. It's good to have trilogies, I believe. So then we have like part 2 of 2, and then we can have coming up maybe in January, I don't know when, but that we can have part 3 of 2, which reminds me of the wonderful Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a trilogy in 4 parts, I believe. So maybe we'll take a leaf out of that book and make it all come together. But yeah, it'd be awesome if you went over to Instagram and followed me there. That's the only place where I'm putting out stuff during the day. You can also, since it's Christmas, you can consider buying me a present in the form of telling somebody who is another fellow performer, or but fellow performer, or somebody who's interested in play. Do you know somebody who's interested in play? Not the child. Somebody who's interested in as a subject. Tell them about it, and let this be your present to them for Christmas, and the present to me for Christmas as well. So let's jump in with Nick. Let's continue talking about secrets. I can't remember word for word what it was that we talked last time.
Sure.
But we got to a point when I thought, okay, this is a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because all the things that I thought that we were going to talk about.
I don't think we touched on it.
No, about that specific kind of way that magicians share secrets. So we talked a lot about secrets in so many ways around and around. And this time, because I think I started by saying that when we met, you had just published your book. You have been doing lecturing for a long time. And you have also done a masterclass, which I guess is like a filmed lecture, but it's the same. So this, maybe to frame it a little bit, it's also to make sure that all those people who are not magicians, that they know that within magic, when you become a member of the magic circle, you are to swear that you will never share any of these secrets.
Yeah.
And
yet most of those members have published books or sell ideas or lecture, and so it's like, what is the line and what is the...
Yeah.
You know?
And magic books, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that it's one of the sort of pastimes or hobbies that people have written the most about.
Yeah, it's true. Shockingly.
Yeah, but it's like, because everyone who has had a magic act that they have done for most of their life, or those people who just continually think of tricks, some people think mainly of technical things to do with cards, and so it's sleights. It's like a routine might just be a thinly disguised way of using a particular sleight. Like you can force a card, meaning you make the person choose the card that you want them to choose, or you can palm a card, which means that your hand looks empty but that there's a card inside it, and then you use that to perform a magic trick or whatever. So books vary really quite a lot in the type of content that they have. Some are technical manuals and some show whole routines, and there's so many aspects.
Some are
as
just
well
variants too.
Yeah,
like, which I find fascinating, and that's especially in the card realm. Like, the people will publish something and it's just because one move is slightly different than the way that the guy who originated it did.
Yeah, and that was like, we were just looking at here, you had we were talking about different card tricks like Monty's, where you have 3 cards and you keep putting one card in the middle and the audience can't tell where it is, or lots of different variations of those. And I mentioned I had this trick, Sidewalk Shuffle. That's a packet trick that I saw Paul Daniels do that I thought I might pick up. And then you bring out this little plastic bag, and this is how tricks are. Like, so the magicians then, when I went to magic conventions as a kid, it's like you just queue up and you need to, before the lecture is done, because you know there's not enough of these manuscripts. And it's
or they say that.
Yeah, they say that. Actually, they got 6 boxes of it or whatever. But as a kid, I believed that, and I came up and queued up. And then you get a plastic bag. Sometimes the lecture notes is just actually A4 pieces of paper bent over into an A5 shape. And then stapled in the middle, which is what this is. And it's
all like, I think the front is, you know, maybe early word processing, maybe rub-on transfers, because the font is different than the inside. The inside's like typewriter.
So this is from 1984. Or that they actually literally just drew it on with pen.
That too.
Because the top and the bottom part here, where it says the person's name, and underneath, that's printed with printed letters, and that middle bit there is like a more sort of hand-drawn, but it could be some sort of, like you say, like a letter set, where you scratch off. But
like the Max Maven packet tricks were my favorite example of that, because they were so unique looking. Like, I think you can see his style. Like, he used to do the ads for the Hank Lee catalog things, and you can tell that style of like paste up work is very uniquely him. It's cool.
And because I then grew up at this time, so packet tricks, or like a trick like this from 1984, this is really seeped into my soul of what I like. I like these kinds of things. So because when you open it up now, it's basically then just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of writing in like 8 point. It's like, normally you would think that it would at least be a 12 if you that's like your normal standard kind of thing, and it's tiny written, and it's just full written out typewriter style,
just blocks of text, huge blocks of text, but every now and then when it's like going, as you again reach the left hand, the left thumb pushes off the top card, red in brackets, onto the top underlined of the black card in the right hand, placed on squarely so that both cards are practically lined up. So it's just a list of
movements
and how the cards look when you do it. And I have so many memories of sitting there with just a page of text. There's no picture, no drawing. Every now and then there's like an underlining or whatever here, which is like this one you see here. This is not an underlining that you can do, because now you can click on it and it becomes underlined.
Right.
Somebody wrote this, printed it out, and then on
said,
what became...
Shit, we should let them know.
Yeah, or like they go here, I'm going, oh, it's a top card, so this is important. So then they use, so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, just on that page. So there's 4 underlines on that page, which has been done with a pen after they printed it out. And they make a new sort of... And all of that stuff, I would love to do then when I print my book.
Totally.
Whatever, to make all of those things as PDFs. So you basically get it printed out, and then I underline and write some things in the margins and some notes and do a little drawing. So it's a little bit like the J.J. Abrams book, The Ship of Theseus or whatever, like with marginalia in it. I love that, and I think part of it is seeing these kinds of things where they've gone in, they've already done the first page and they've typed it out on a typewriter. So if they notice that they've forgotten to do it, you might just fix it with a pen. Afterwards, because you go, or else I have to type this whole page one more time on the.
Or like the Jarrett book, he literally set the letters in like a printing press.
Really?
1 page at a time.
Wow.
And I think, and I might be totally wrong on the history of this, but so he learned how to do that to write that book on illusions. Typesetting.
Yeah.
And he did it like one, make the page, print 100 of that page or whatever, or 50 of that page. And so, which I can't, and
then you end up with like
unreal.
150 stacks of 150 pages, because you're going to make 150 books, and then you take one of each, either put them in the machine to get that glue on, which is like the perfect bind or whatever it is, or you sew that stuff together at the end. It's
unbelievable.
Yeah, amazing. But that's giving me a fondness for these kinds of things, and to go that actually when you buy this little thing, it's basically 2 pieces of a folded paper on off. Yeah. What color is this? Gray? Bluish. So you buy that paper and then you print it. But for me then, having this feeling like there could be gold in here. Yeah. Stuff that you could do that you think is hilarious, and that the more you do it, the more fun it gets. But in here could be what, even like in magic, which is called like, it's a reputation maker.
Right.
Like, which
it's
is funny.
Commercial.
Yeah, it's a commercial. It's perfect for this. Packs flat, plays big. All these things that magicians might say when you're looking in catalogs to buy tricks.
Practical, simple. They use the word fooling.
Yeah, very fooling. It's like, or sometimes it might even go, it's like fools, magician fooler.
Yeah.
Like this is which basically means it's an, like what you said, it's a variant. Yep. It's a trick that the magician think that they know. So as you do it, they aren't paying properly attention, and then you have used a different method. So all of a sudden you do one thing, and they all go, oh, now I'm lost because I thought I knew and I wasn't paying attention to the details, and you've tricked them. But anyway, this has given me this sort of feeling when I see these sort of texts home printed. It's because it's basically like a even more secret or hard to obtain zine kind of thing, like the whole world of fanzines, where there would be the way that when black metal first came out, then there was these zines coming out where they're going like, oh, and then there's this band that had this release on here, and there's this demo tape, just send $5 in an envelope, and then we will send you a cassette. And they basically just copied the cassette one more time, and which is this like underground kind of thing.
I think it's exactly like zines, and I think that there's even that culture now too, where doing releases like this is not as prevalent. Most people are filming stuff on their phones, so you've got you get maybe the cards, or you get the gimmick or whatever, and then they get a QR code with just a bad cell phone video of a guy teaching you how to do the trick exactly as he did it, which we can get into video. I know we talked about that a little bit, but I think that there is a nostalgia for it. Like I work with Potter and Potter, and
which is a auction house,
Magic and Circus and allied arts auction house, posters and props and everything, carousel horses.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It is amazing.
But they sell a lot of those pamphlets, like the original Phil Goldstein, Max Maven kind of, paste up. It's just a pamphlet. It's got 6 pages and a bunch of ideas in it, or whatever, things from a show, or just a new packet trick that he was selling to pay rent that month. But some of these are going for $80 or $100. Like it's amazing the desire for that kind of nostalgic feeling of getting something in an envelope that holds the secrets of the universe.
Yeah, so awesome. And I mean, I guess it's like you see it in shows like Stranger Things.
Sure.
Where there's also if you look at things like, what's it called again? In Praise of Shadows. I can't remember what his name is called, but this is it's a Japanese dude who wrote an essay called In Praise of Shadows, and he's talking about all the Japanese culture of how it was supposed to be kind of dark and the windows were of rice paper, and that creates a certain type of light. And in this particular kind of light, these relatively coarse ceramic rice bowls becomes beautiful, and the shadows and the dimmer light with the lacquered tables, that changes the whole kind of and he is basically talking about a Japan which is vanishing.
Sure.
The first chapter in that book is about the disappearance of the Japanese toilet, the sort of squat toilet, and with a gap in the wood where you could look out. Maybe you could see a tree, and he goes on to muse that maybe like some of the best haikus ever written were probably written as you were sitting here and you looked at the changing seasons out through because you always go to the same room and you see the same tree, so it's like
amazing,
wonderful. But that was a long diatribe. But about the analog. Yeah. It's like there's room for error. There is the flickering lines from the bad copying of the VHS tape that came when it's like when you watched the magic tape that you'd gotten from your friend who copied it from another friend.
Totally.
And that's coming
especially
back
performance footage. I think that was a cool thing, and I think Jay Gilligan and I have talked about this a little bit, where that vibe of like I got the footage of this guy performing at, like, for me it was Tim Conover, because Tim passed away in 2011, so I'd only ever seen him in like 2010, 2011. I'd only ever seen him at one convention, but I heard like, oh, this guy's the shit, especially for corporate and close-up and mentalism then, later in his life. He was unbelievable, so I was like deep in search of bootlegs of this guy for forever. And that culture is like a whole thing. I mean, I knew a guy who was up in Minnesota who, he was also a magic guy, but he was like the #1 Bob Dylan bootleg collector in the country. Had all these, recordings of concerts that people were making from backpacks and shit. It was just so cool. But so those people exist in every kind of subculture, I guess.
I guess it does, yeah. And then that has this nostalgia also, but also from the fact that I eked my way through some of those text-only, it's like the people who look back at the games and there were text-only games, it's like text-only tricks. And then I would do that trick and it would become one of my favorite tricks. And I would do it in my dad's show, and you'd sort of develop it and go, like, once you sort of finally managed to eke what the secret out. And because you have to do a whole lot of reading just even to know what it was happening in the trick. Because nowadays, even some of the magic tricks are like going, this is the effect, and then it says how it's done. But that's not even always how it was. Sometimes it just launches in, and you got to read, and it's... So like what we just read aloud from this here, where it's just, hold this card and do this. So you're gleaning the effect through having it mixed in with the actual method, which is very difficult. Whereas people nowadays, I'm sure there's...
It's way more set in stone, which I think is... Well, a thing I was going to touch on earlier is like, when I got into this... So I was never a big... I never read novels like for pleasure. I was never a reader. And so reading, you're young and you get these magic books, and then it's like, not only are you not a pleasure reader, like now you're reading fucking manuals on how to do these things that are written by guys, and let's be real, like a lot of them are not writers.
Yeah.
So you're getting this information.
Some of them aren't even magicians. They're like some card technician or whatever, so they got this limited knowledge of, anyway.
Big time. Yeah, so there is a lot of gambling text that is kind of even more difficult to read. But so in Magic, to me there was this like, there's a whole period of learning how to read these manuals and how to decipher that language, because some of it is like you need to have, especially for certain books, I'd say the majority of the books that are written for like the Magic community as a whole, not for beginners or not for like if I put out that jumbo card thing with that pamphlet, I would assume that you know what 5 moves are, the kind of the core slights. Like I assume you know about a multiple lift and this thing and that thing, and you know these terms, and maybe you know a version of it. Yeah.
Like in the way that it quite frequently might say, and do your favorite card force, or that's the most prevalent one maybe. Totally. But if it's like, and you're doing a false count. Do your favorite method, and then if it's for lay people, or if it's, or usually then it goes, you can always do the cross force. That functions like this, because they have to give you one. But so yeah.
Well, I think like the one that was hard for me was the sponge balls, because just for me, and I know that the people that would listen to this is like none of the moves would be interesting or prevalent, but like there's a core handful of sleights that you need to know in order to do that trick. And I think a lot of people think it's like a entry level thing. You go into a magic shop and you buy the foam balls and you do the thing, but it's like, if you really look at it, those are not the easiest moves in the world. And so you get it and you see the guy do it at the shop, and then you're frustrated because you have no context for any of these moves. Yeah. But so once you learn that language, it feels like this whole world opens up. That now, I mean, you've seen the books in my house. Like I'm reading. I would say that the majority of what I read, I still like. I try to get friends to force me to read fiction, because I just don't. Like most of the books that I read, that's a screenplay writing one that's also instructional. There's all these other. Most of the non-magic books are like
somehow related,
somehow manual. Yeah. But
it is also 2 totally different things. I also read mainly non-fiction.
Sure.
But about other subjects, philosophy or whatever. Yeah. And maybe that's where, because I have sometimes wondered about this. Why is it when people go, oh, this book, Tom Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, as a novel, is very hard to read. Sure. I'm like, really? Let me have a look.
Right.
I somehow feel that challenge, or like where I'm going, or somebody talks about a trick that's very hard, or somebody go and you do go. Then I want to know. Right. And then you want to read it and you want to decipher it and go.
Well, I don't know if that's totally. I think that this is carrot dangling to some degree, right? You go, oh, you like that trick? Okay, well, read this thing from the 30s that will be that instead of. And some of them are nearly impossible. Like I think everybody has their own system. I think Roberto Giobbi wrote a great essay on how to read magic books.
Oh, excellent!
Because it
in Card College, or just in a random
essay.
essay.
Separate one of his like maybe the annual book things, but like if you sit down with a deck of cards in one of those books and you don't really know, maybe you know a few moves or whatever. You still have to go through, or like when I first read Al Schneider's books, they were way over my head, because I go, fuck, he's got, instead of right hand, he puts R-H, and then left hand is L-H, and then there's books that even go to like backup, like B-O-D, back of deck, and you're like, I need to know this other stupid language that doesn't actually expedite anything. It just expedites the typing of it.
Yeah, because it was literally typed so that it's gonna go faster, because you have to type right hand so many times that you go,
I would have rather paid you $15 instead of $10 for this manuscript if you wrote out right hand.
Yeah, just write what you mean, so I don't have to do any translation, because it's already difficult enough, because it becomes... And it's also, so you then have 5 pages of no single space,
Yeah.
typed
Those
in
are
tiny
blocks of
font,
text.
blocks of text, and you are describing something in here which literally, like, you take the card, hold it up, turn it down as you put it into your hand, and then close your hand to keep the cards like that. Put your index finger
Yeah.
on the top of the card whilst you lift the 2 cards as one on the back, and there's so much text that needs to go to describe very little.
Yeah.
So you might have read half a page, and you've only really, of what the spectator goes, is that you go, take a card, put it back in the deck. That's the spectator's point of view.
And a bad writer doesn't put that context in there.
Yeah.
I get a big kick out. Probably one of my biggest like hobby end of Magic authors that I like going through his books and his magazines and stuff is Jerry Sadowitz.
Oh yeah.
Because I love his material. The tricks are fucking phenomenal. And I don't like whatever we talked about this. I do like a card trick in my real life, but I've always fiddled with it, and I love. I grew up doing it. I have my core, handful of things that I mastered as a kid, and then I can still kind of futz through these books. But his stuff is so, you don't even get what the trick is before you're doing it. Sometimes it'll just say like, the trick will be called whatever, Oil and Queens, and then it's literally like where the cards start and then just numbered bullet points, and then you get to the end of the trick and like there are a couple where I kind of went, I don't even know what the intended and maybe it's just like I don't know how to read the stones. There's a rune in here that has a thing that means this thing, it's very interesting. John Lovick, I think, has my favorite. He really helped with my book because I was kind of doing, and then we should circle back to like all this stuff that we were kind of hitting on last time, but not quite popping on with like the whys and hows and kind of the gray area of sharing secrets and what the. Because I
absolutely
I thought about it a lot. It's tough. Right.
So that's great. Let's try to talk about that because we touched on it just earlier now too. When you join the magic circle, you swear on your aunt's grave that you are not going to share any secrets. But the only reason why any of these magicians know anything about magic, on the big scale, is that they have read books, read magazines, that they talk to other magicians about it.
Tricks.
And you see a magician, so some people see a magician and then they might show them one little thing, and most of the time they don't.
Right.
But every now and then a kid you might show them something, and sometimes that kid takes that away and goes, that was the seed that I became a magician in that moment when I saw it, and they managed to see the secret as an interesting thing. So that, I think, so. So secrets will always be shared, and you say that, like people say, oh, a magician never shares her secrets.
Sure, yeah.
But they do. It's a huge part of the whole culture of it, is the sharing or not sharing. But one of the things that I thought of that I sometimes come up against or just encounter is that people see me do my act, and then they don't know me, and they go, I am not the magician, as far as they see. If they see me do the tennis or they see me do the cans, balance, it's like I'm some sort of circus funny guy. They don't know what it is. And then
they don't want to share.
Or they don't think, so they go, oh yes, I go, what do you do? They do magic. I'm a magician. I go, oh, I also do magic. And then they sort of go, everybody says that. And they're not sure. Even without them being condescending or so, just going, oh, okay.
Totally.
And then, but then I might say, oh, I'm currently reading Ascanio's book because I find that interesting, because I got into to Daniel D'Ortiz, and then he goes back there, and Tamariz goes back, which is what and then when you say those things, and then within a short period of time, and you're going, oh yeah, when I was a kid, and my dad subscribed to this magazine, so I read that. And if you cite things, we
went to Blackpool in
we subscribed to Magic Gram.
Right,
which was the
deep cut.
Yeah, so then it's great to say that I subscribed to this magazine that you might have heard about, but that was out of print before you were born.
Talked.
Yeah. Oh, whatever.
Way before, yeah.
So then there is this sort of little vetting process that's going on where they might go, and at some point they go, oh, you are a magician.
Sure.
And then you can talk in a different way. You might not share the specific secrets from your act, but...
Some guys are worse about it too, or maybe it's better. I don't really know. But there are guys that are really... So one of my favorite parts of Tannens camp, which is the camp for young magicians in out east every year in Pennsylvania at this big college. Kids from all over the world come in, and a bunch of acts... donate their time for a week, and there's a contest, and then we work on those acts, and the kids come in with tricks that they want to learn or whatever, and it's hardcore workshops all week long, 7 days, all day long. Everybody's fried every day. It's the most genuine nights of sleep I've ever had in my life, and then I'm up early the next day, and it's so productive and fun. But the beginning of the week is this crazy thing where the kids are like vetted by us, a bunch of us in different little groups, and maybe there's a list of like, I don't know the exact details of it because I just aid in it. I'm not like on the camp end of it, but they'll have a list of like, this kid was in course level 1 last year with this magician who kind of knows this realm of thing. But so at the beginning of the week, they might have a little bit of context as to what they know. If they're new, they have none. So some of these kids, maybe they've done it for 2 years and they think that they know the secrets of the universe. And they're like, I do tricks at my school and I am the David Copperfield of Bryn Mawr High or whatever, right? They are hot shit. But then they've never been in a room with guys that have done it for 20 years that may know a little bit more than they do, and they don't know that.
Read one article that child might have missed.
Right. Yeah. Maybe they had Magic Gram, right? Who knows? But, it's so awesome because you kind of get to play that, lingo game. And I got to correct one of the years where this was my first time there, but I had talked to this kid in line when he was, because everybody gets there at the same time and they're there with their parents and their luggage and the whatever, and there's kind of this weird ice-breaking
and they don't know each other and it's scary and your kids and
it's terrifying. It's sleepaway camp. For most of them it's the first time that they're even doing that. So it's this weird, so I'm going around there, me, socially anxious guy, going, I'm just gonna say shit to make people feel fine. Hey, where are you from? Oh, that's awesome. But so I'm talking to this kid, I go, what do you do? Are you working? What's your deal? And he's like, I do mentalism and I really like billet work and I do this thing and I do this thing. So then the vetting time comes where it's kind of what stuff is appropriate for this kid. Because I think if they're in too easy a class, they go, camp sucks, I hate it. If they're in too hard a class, they're never going to enjoy it.
Yeah, because they feel inferior the whole time. Yeah, you want to find that sweet spot, exactly.
Right, feeling progress. And I think by the end of that week, all of those.
And you want to have something productive too. You want to have some tricks that you want to have some tricks that they can pick up and they can basically do them thinking, I'm going to do this next
time when my mom picks me up for camp. I would give kids shit about that too, because I go your parents are going to spend $2,000 and you're getting picked up on Sunday and you don't have anything to show? What are they going to think I did all week? This is terrible. Because this is a huge part about it. I'll get back to the vetting thing in a second, but this is Tyler Erickson, who's a great instructor in magic and a great thinker and performer. He great close-up magician, but he worked in magic shops for 20 years, and he knows the community and he knows the buying and selling and what people, he would pitch stuff. So he, worked in the shop at the Mall of America, and so he was selling the, basic stuff to these guys that would come in for their first time. And as he got into the instructor, I'm sure that he would explain this much better, but when he got into teaching people, he realized through private lessons and stuff and sleight of hand training, he figured out that there's this crazy threshold where like everybody just kind of, you do the sponge thing if you can afford it, I guess, or if you have the library means or whatever, but you just get too much information.
Yeah.
Most people do that with almost any hobby, I think. But especially with Magic, it's so easy to go, you know, if I just bought that new coin thing, that would be my star vehicle. I could, you know, I'd be the hit of the Red Robin if I had that Monty routine or whatever. So people just, and that is part of selling it too, right? Like when I sell Magic, I'm selling the image of me doing it. That you're kind of selling you in the sports car with the hot girl version of it, right?
Yeah.
Which sounds dumb, but it's like...
Yeah, but once they see you on stage there with those inhalators, those
Right.
things, they're going like,
You go,
yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to turn my asthma into an opportunity for some killer magic.
and if you never do it, those people are just as happy. You're
Yeah,
buying the sports car kind of
Buying a dream, yeah.
And so for some people, you're buying an act, legit.
Yeah.
Like, or the thing that'll turn it that you gain this piece of information. Like for me, for the inhalers, I bought fucking foam bananas from a guy when I was 9 or 10, and I made a million foam bananas appear, and then I was kind of, you take a step back and you go, what the fuck was the foam bananas thing? 10, 15 years pass by, and then I come back to it and I go, that knowledge that I obtained through those $8 pieces of dish foam that guy sold me that he probably paid his rent with helped me figure out this big key many, many years later. It's really weird to think about.
Yeah.
So it's not always totally like, you know, I don't want to make it sound like it's just guys screwing people over. Or
and it isn't. Because this card trick that we have here, the tricks that I have at home in a little stack that I have bought.
Totally.
I am, because I'm a professional performer,
Yep.
I am aware that I will probably buy, let's say 10, and I will only use one. The more number, it's 80. I buy 80 things, but like, because then I buy a book because I like the thinking of someone. Like I bought it's standing Christopher the Magician, and he bought out a book that I can't remember the name of it now, but in there was a trick that I used that I have my own handling of.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
It's like, but the plot of the trick, and I've swapped it out, and I use a little like it, and it's a killer routine, and I have since then bought. Did he make 2 more books or whatever?
I don't even
and I've
know.
used none of those, but it's
Right.
kids magic.
But it may be...
It's called Beyond Look Don't See.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He has a shaved head and he...
No, he's a very straight looking dude.
Oh, I don't even know.
Anyway,
Okay.
but it's like family magic. But then now I'm like, because I found a trick that that went into my act.
Yeah.
That he had. So now I know that after the first show that I did, if you say that the first time when I did that trick in the show, that show paid for that book.
Oh, of course.
Many times over or whatever. Even when the magic books sometimes are like $100 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Which happens. But you go, there's
Well,
one
for you,
thing
so
in
what's
here
that,
that
2 shows for you?
Yeah, that's like 2 shows, yeah. So, approximately. Yeah. But then, so there could be gold in there that could be a reputation maker, or literally be like, that's the thing that the kids afterwards, or that the people go, I love it when you do this thing, and then you say that little speech of
and
this.
you never know, which is the crazy part, right?
Yeah.
Is that you go, like, I have some of the dumbest, weirdest little purchases where some guy is getting out of it, and he's at the International Brotherhood of Magicians flea market, and he's got a shoebox full of garbage, and I love digging through people's estates. Not like magic estates, but usually when they're still alive. More fun, turns out. Done it the other way a couple times. A little heavier. But, the guy's got a shoebox of junk, and then you find some little piece of a ring that I do that all the time. And you never know what thing, and then it's something that you go, why did I spend $8 on a shoebox full of little pieces of brass? And then it's something that like fixes your multi-tens of thousands of dollars show, whatever. It's just like, you never know. And I think it's all part of the creative hive, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe a lot of people probably work differently. I think, comics don't go out and buy dead people's acts or some
jokes.
Yeah, sometimes obviously they do, and they have writers and they
Yeah,
have groups.
absolutely, like that, definitely. And then, but by then you're sort of co-creating, which is almost like a different thing. But so that's the interesting thing, though. As much as it's illegal to share secrets. Amongst magicians, that is what magicians do. But then we have this vetting process, which we can get back to that now. But of you checking where they're at, because you don't want to just throw out all sorts of secrets to an 8-year-old kid.
Right.
And every now and then somebody might make a magic book for the general public.
Totally.
And the whole magic community might turn on them because you put that trick in there.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's rare, but it's like people might go, this trick here, that's not, and then someone goes, hang on, that was also in this magic book over here, and you're going, yeah, but that was a special one. So sharing secrets is a point of contention always.
Big time.
So that's one thing. And the second thing is then that we should get back to once you've continued talking about the vetting thing from your point of view. But the second thing is I lost the thread now of what that was.
Sure, but the second thing we'll find through that other stuff.
Yeah.
But
Tell me, continue the story of the vetting the kids. So the kids are coming in, you're trying to work out where they're at, so you're looking for things to present them with that get them into some sort of flow state where they are right at the edge of their capability, and they have this breakthrough moment where they go, you're showing it and they don't get it, and they're showing it, and all of a sudden, holy shit, you hold your finger like that, and then all of a sudden they can do this move or whatever.
And you see it too. It's kind of nuts. Like when they are in the right class and they're in the right, like I think for the first couple of days, not a lot, but 10 or 12 kids kind of get moved around where they start doing stuff and you go, oh, this kid really, like maybe it was who vetted them, didn't really know what's what or what's up, or the kid kind of wasn't letting on, or he was nervous, or she was nervous, right? Like because it's fucking, if I was
it's nerve-wracking
10 and somebody was like, show me what you got, asshole, like, and then we gotta do some trick for a 30-year-old guy they never met, that maybe they, like some of these guys are known together. It's like, hey, do a card trick for Aussie Wind, and Aussie's sitting there
and you already know them from the internet, and this is your hero, and now you're gonna show it. It's like the other day Jason England gave me the deck of cards and told me to flick through it, and I'm like, I was like, I'm allergies, what the hell's going on? Flick through the deck and work out which card is not there. And I'm like, and I haven't held the deck of cards since for months. And all of a sudden it's like, I don't quite know how to not riffle shuffle, just riffle through a deck.
Yeah.
You can get the nerves at any time.
Oh, man. I did that so hard with Steve Forty, with Jason, actually, where it was just like, I literally seized up and I don't think I did anything. It was just like I could bear, because he would show me something and then he's like, oh, what are you working on? And I was just like, you're the greatest. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's totally intimidating when somebody goes, and you go, oh, do you know this trick? And you go, no, but here you go. And then he's doing it and he's counting false, like it's just insane, the skill that's going. So then you just go, like nothing springs to mind that you would like to show them. I usually do this thing where the 4 cards end up on top like that. Yeah. It's like you go, I can't show.
We go, well, they know it. I'm sure that happens in juggling and stuff. Maybe not. Maybe that's just a...
No, I'm sure if you have like Wes Peden and Jay Gilligan just jamming out some stuff and then they go, so cool, what are you working on? You go, nothing.
I don't know. I've never cut anything into a trapezoid. So I can juggle these other shapes.
I juggle balls, sometimes bean bags.
So, just to totally wrap up the vetting thing. Yeah. So they're vetted by whoever. There's 10 different tables or whatever, and all these kids are getting cycled through, and they talk to
And each table is then, are you just putting them on a number, like they're 1 to 10 or something like that, or are you?
They can express an interest in something, I think, and maybe that's before camp, before they get there. I don't know the bookworks logistics part, but I know that they can pick electives. Like if they want to learn balloon animals, or they want to
mentalism, or they want to do work with cards, or you want to do stage, or are you doing close up, or are you doing whatever. Yeah.
The class I'm the most proud of being able to do was we did I guess I learned it as table crap, but impromptu or semi-impromptu, like just stuff, social humor and stuff to do with tables, and a lot of it's like really great magic. And it's the stuff that I love, and I collect that stuff. And I did like an hour and a half on it with David Williamson one time, where it was like butter packets and plates, and we're breaking stuff. And this guy's got and I'm doing egg waltzing and teaching. We have 6 kids up there with plates, spinning eggshells on the thing. And I was like, you'll learn a lot of stuff at camp, but if you go home and you spin an eggshell for your mom, like, boom, you're coming back next year.
Yeah.
You know, here's the... So what I was saying was, like, there's a kid, I'm randomly talking to him. There's surprises around every corner.
Yeah.
Here, if you need, like, that's probably not a real man.
I just, okay, so it was just... the thing that I forgot before was that it's that we have to talk about is that you might then have read or seen an act like on a DVD that somebody, and then it still can be weird that people do it.
Yeah.
And so it's been published, or has it not been published, or you see a version of it and you're doing it. So it's like even though you've bought it or whatever, like it might not still be fully okay. So that was the second thing, but let's just finish that. But that was the thing that we need to talk about, because it's not just that you have the secret, but it's like
that you got the
Mike Cavaney has published his chicken routine.
Sure.
But like
you're probably not going to go out and
what's going to happen if you make all those crazy things that he has with all the tools and that? And I guess technically now, because he has done it,
technically it's okay.
It's sort of like fair game.
Yeah.
But does it say in that book? Because I know it sometimes does. You can't do this on TV when you buy this trick or stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think I even got into it a little bit with some of the things I've put out, where it's like, please don't do this as is. Like you want to, at least to some degree, be encouraging and be like, try to come up with your own, find why this fits you and find why you're doing it and find what you want to say and find... literally what is the purpose of you doing this? But I think in Mike's case, as he said when we were just there, he's touring less. He wants these things to be out there. He spent hundreds and hundreds of hours developing that routine. So if there's one thing, and this is partially why I put those routines that are in the book in my book, because I'm not actively doing them anymore, but I took many, many hours to get to that end point. So if the people that, because a lot of those, I started with someone else's end point, which maybe was in the 50s for some of those tricks, right? And then I took it and ran with it for however many years. And then I got to a stopping point where it just didn't fit me anymore, or I put something else on the show and I'm not going to do a 2-hour extravaganza of everything I've ever come up with. So it just whatever, it phases out, I grow out of it, things
of course.
Such and such. So I think that at that point it's like you're kind of giving the okay to just do it.
Yeah.
But you'd prefer I'm sure Mike is like, don't wear the tie with a spot on it, buy the same stool and do those gags. There is some that kind of happened, and there was a great little tiff in the magic community, in the LA community, where a guy who doesn't have the fucking talent to be able to take one of those routines and add in anything, just did it nearly verbatim, did not change much at all, and got a lot of shit from people, but was like, well, I bought the book. So as you go, okay, it's kind of a gray area, because you are an idiot for doing it.
Because that's the thing, though. It's but that also shows this major difference with where we say, oh yeah, this guy bought those jokes or so, but it's sometimes it's not you could say that the chicken act, or it isn't that, it's anyway.
Sure.
Mike Cavaney's act where the chicken comes out, and there's a whole bunch of comedy that comes out of that, and it's a brilliant thing.
And other tricks. There's a lot of stuff in that routine. Yeah. Right, that's 12 minutes of his show.
12 minutes. So you've basically bought a whole set of of someone's act, and then
Yeah.
comedians don't do that, even though technically it probably could absolutely work. Like you go
Yeah.
and play these small comedy clubs around, and chances that it's going to be the same dude doing it, which is what magic happens a lot of the time. It's like you're doing a routine, and you if that dude, but amongst those magicians who care genuinely about magic, coming out and doing somebody's whole act,
Insane.
even if you have sort of purchased it, is a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yet, yeah. So like that, and it's baffling. There's no real like
Hard
cut.
and fast rule.
No.
Well, like I was given a guy's act, right? Well, I guess it's happened a couple times now. Or where people would give me chunks of their old show that I loved growing up and whatever. Like Chris Kenner gave me his whole act, which is just the weirdest thing to me. And so when I was integrating the main trick that I wanted to do into my show from that into my stuff, I got really weird about it because I go, oh God, like, first off, magicians who tried to buy the stuff from him, he never sold his stand-up material. And he just did it, which is what most acts in the world do. And so magicians kind of got weird about it when it was like, well, why does he get to do it? What did he do to earn that? So
You don't want to know.
yeah, you don't want to know because he's already got hundreds of millions. He doesn't need me to financially support. But like, he so I said actively, and I said that people, my anxiety was like, people are just gonna fucking say that I got a free ride, even though I had an hour leading up to that. Like, I was so afraid of the way that comedians and writers and magicians and whatever would think of this if it was like, oh, he was just handed this shit on a silver platter. So I took the trick, and he said, do you want me to get Homer to send you? He goes, I'm sure he's got access to the footage of me doing this stuff in David's show. And I was like, let me write it out for his history's sake. Yes, 100% I want that. But for now, let's pause on that and let me try to write out. So the trick that's in my show, there are none of the original gags from that piece that I know of in the way that I do it. If there's something that, like, in the back of my head, I remembered.
Then it's a translation,
and like it's I've got the same props, so there is probably some close humor, but I kind of landed on my own vibe with it, and then hopefully ran with it, and now I've been doing it for however many years. And I think when people see it, magicians who saw Chris in the 80s and 90s know that that's his trick because it's the same kind of iconic imagery, right? But the gags are very much me, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and that is basically how we hope that the act is going to be.
Yeah.
When you write it in your book and you see somebody do your act.
Yeah.
With the handcuffs or whatever, if this idea somebody's using it, and you go, oh, okay, this is a cool idea, and it's different from mine in this way, and it's somehow, the more you change it and the more you make it your own and the more it fits your character. Sometimes they can do it the same, but as soon as you see it, you go, oh, that's perfect for you. And then you feel happy for 100%. Them. You're going, oh, that's brilliant. You don't have to change a thing because you pick up those props and you have the same awkward character or whatever, and all of a sudden it just works as it is.
100%. I think Chris and I had that too. I think Chris saw a lot of the same sense of humor and a lot of the same, like, we like dumb jokes. And I knew that previously we had talked about how in certain scenarios, like, we completely aligned in beliefs as far as when there's too much comedy or when there's too much magic, or when to do the magic part and when to worry just about the funny part. And the willingness to just do visual gags, like, there's nothing in my bones that makes me go, I want to do strong magic, and I know that, and I've got those things to my desires built into the show, right? And I work on that stuff, and I feel like that's the thing that I write fairly well, is I know, I want the ring to end up on my foot, but I don't want to I don't want it to be so lazy that it's this or this or this, because I could just stooge it, or I could do this, or I could do whatever. You know, there's different paths that you could take, and I feel like from the time I was a kid, I've been pretty heavily, it's been drilled into my head, like the strength of the magic that I want to do, especially in close-up and whatever, this and that. But there is nothing keeping me and Chris from being totally willing to just do a sight gag for the sake of doing a sight gag. And I think that is like a pretty strong distinction especially with magicians on stage, like the willingness to do a dumb thing because I like it and I think they'll like it and it says the things I want to say and is funny, hopefully.
Yeah, we talked about your flute and all that. It's like there's nothing about that's magic. It's just a hilarious gag. Yeah. And having strong magic is, of course, also like it's the best of both. When somebody is dorky and you do a dumb joke, then if you're gonna do some dumb jokes, then you also need to have some strong magic to allow them, or to give some justification for why they should be watching you. Yeah. So it's
just to put a bow on that vetting thing. So, kid talks to me about mentalism stuff. Hey, I like billet work, and they have this peak that I do, and I do this thing. Sorry, let me turn my air off. But he goes, I this is the kind of work that I'm interested in, and I think I'm pretty proficient in it, and I work with a Swami gimmick or this or that. So he's telling me like pretty hardcore stuff for a 15-year-old or 16-year-old.
And it's old school too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's still a bit of billet work, which basically is writing. You have a small piece of paper or a small little cards, and then you get the person who comes up from the audience to write their name of their dead grandma or whatever. And then you tear that thing up or burn it or get rid of it, but you do it to or whatever.
And it's very old school.
And it's really old school. It's like Corinda's 13 Steps or whatever. It's a huge part of it or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Animan's work.
Animan, yeah.
I think some of the best Animans. Well, I think some of the best mentalism is billet. Like a true billet worker could.
My friend in Norway, Vidar Hansen, who is a 15-year working as a cop and as a magician, he was started to do billet work now.
Man, it's strong.
And it's so strong, and it seems like, because the weird thing with those little bits of paper that you just get out of the way straight away, but it's sort of done, or like you write it on there just so that we know afterwards, so that you don't say no, that was not it, and then I stand there looking like a fool. So whatever that thing is, but you write it down on these little pieces of paper, and it really can look like all we did was telepathy.
Yeah. Well, the best billet workers make those things go away,
disappear. Not just not just from that they aren't there, but that you can't even really remember it, because it is completely insignificant. You take a pencil and you write some stuff down on the paper, and then the dude rips it up and throws the pieces away.
Or maybe it's still apparently in your pocket, or it is in your pocket,
and you can actually take it out. So it's like
it's really
it has become insignificant. It's got nothing to do with anything, and it feels like you're scratching down notes. But it is very old school. So this 15-year-old kid goes, I use billets.
So I'm kind of like, oh shit, he's hip, right? So I'm like, this kid's probably good, and he's talking like he's good. Then he comes to my table for the thing, and I have another one of the counselors with me he isn't an act, but he's like, he's taught at the camp for 20 years. She's more campside, probably. Yeah. But he hands the kid a deck of cards and goes, hey, can you show us an Elmsley count? Which is a card move.
It's a false card.
Yeah. And the kid, seizes up, and he, totally dinks through it, and it's not great. And so the guy kind of, is showing me his laptop, and he's like, okay, well, we're going to put him in the level 1 class or whatever. And I kind of had to go, hey, no, I would put him in here, and we will talk about why later if you need me to. So then the kid goes away, and the guy's like, he couldn't do any of the stuff that I asked him to. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do a false transfer. He couldn't do this thing. He just couldn't do any of that stuff. And I go, you didn't ask like how, you know, and not saying that I have some perfect form of vetting
of
people,
course not, but this is just a specific example of one's case.
Let the kid fucking talk also. Like, the biggest thing that we could be doing in those scenarios is listening. It's not like, the kid's not on trial.
Yeah.
Hey, show me this one oddly specific thing that even if you're really good at cards, like, maybe it flew by you in a book or it wasn't useful.
Or also this kid is so young, so they've just started, and he is not interested maybe in cards. He's shown that he is interested in, and maybe you've only read 5 books, and it's Richard Osterlund, and it's whatever, and then he is into mentalism, and this is, I think, a beautiful picture of what's wrong with standardized tests.
Oh man, it's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually I'm a good test taker, but I'm not a good student.
Yeah.
Like maybe in magic, if it's something I'm hyper fixated on, then it's, you know, it's probably different.
Yeah.
But school, I'm a very good like cram and expel, or on standardized math tests, like, you know, I'm sharp enough, but I'm not good at it. So I would always get these things and they go, come on, look what you did on the standardized test. You're clearly smart. Why can't you just do it? And it's like, because I sat up last night and I put a bunch of shit in my head and I have a way of doing that, and then I vomited it onto this thing, and then you passed me.
All about it.
Yeah, and it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, but also, I was thinking on the standardized test is like if you have just been to the class and then afterwards they go, and just for everything to be fair, this is just the example that I always use. It's from a cartoon where they go, so there's like a horse and a sheep and a monkey and a turtle and a fish sitting there, and the teacher is going, well, for it to be fair, everybody's going to do the same test. Climb this tree.
Yeah.
And then everybody falls out. So this kid goes, oh, you don't know how to do a false count with the cards? Okay, we're going to put you in the baby class.
Right.
And go, oh, and here's a kid who's
probably sharp.
six issues from the end of the omnibus of the Jinx Ted Anman magazine. So he's at the end of just reading something completely different and having a lot of knowledge, but I don't know. Anyway.
It's such a different form, too. Like, it's in those scenarios, and obviously it's like, you know, we got to get through 200 kids in the day to get into the next day of the real stuff.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a good way to, like, listen before they get there, or have one of us call them. I don't know what it is, because maybe it's just creating more work, but I think you could just dive into it if this was a thing that, like, if it was more, you know, answer based, like, what are you into? And if they go cards, then you go, hey, do you know proper way to hold a break? Or how do you hold a break? And what's your false count like? Oh, you don't do any? Well, what do you do? So how do you control a card? Because you got to be able to do that. You probably do that. You do that. How do you do it?
Yeah.
And basing it off of real brackets instead of saying, hey, here's this one thing that was in a book.
Yeah. That's exactly right, because and through that process as well, then you suss out what it is that they do know, and then you go, oh well, so I saw that you had some problems with the Elms account there. Yeah. Just let's just do that a little bit more, and then I'll just look in on you later or whatever. Because sometimes they might just relax, and all of a sudden they know how to use their hands again.
100%.
This is why it is when you're learning a trick, be it juggling or be it a magic trick. First, you need to learn how to do it when you're alone, and then you need to show it to your partner, and then you need to do it in front of an audience, because each time it's like the tensions that you have in your body whilst performing
totally different
changes the way that your body actually is.
Yeah.
So it means that because you aren't like me. It's not that I'm nervous when I'm doing a show, but I'm so focused on what the audience is doing and keeping a certain tempo and being the person that I am when I am on stage.
Right.
That it's completely unnatural for me to sit like I'm sitting now, or that I'm doing. It's not how you are. And you need to relearn it when your body is in this altered state of being, which you are when you're standing in front of an audience. So you have to relearn it. Okay, let's try to circle back to more secrets, because basically now this vetting process, it's just a more detailed version, and there you're struggling as a teacher because you're going to share. But then that's what we also meet when you meet another person who says, I'm a magician, and at this point I might not be able to prove it or whatever. What am I going to do? I show you a dance palm with a coin, and
my favorite is they start. I get this at magic conventions all the time. Is they just start saying who they know. It's like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? What can you, come on, like, if if I took this deck and I put it in your hands,
what will you do?
What is the conversation that we need to have? Or like, what's the interesting actual connective tissue? Oh, you met this guy that I'm close to and he knows this person. It's like, what's the actual boots on the ground? Like, what setting are you in? What is the magic discussion?
What kind of material are you actually doing? So, yeah, we've now touched on that gray area, because what you also want is, if you ever write something up, so have you got a story about that you saw somebody, don't have to mention any names, but that you saw somebody do something both that was positive and also that was negative, of stuff that you have lectured about, or that you've got in your book or in your masterclass?
I had a guy come to a lecture I just did last week, and I've had this similar thing a couple times now, where the guy...
Oh, and the one just in LA now, just when I was almost there,
yeah. You missed it by hours.
I missed it by hours, yeah.
We saw it 2 years ago.
And Mario came.
Yeah, unreal.
I missed him there. That was close. I was almost...
so great.
Yeah. Anyway, I was in a coma by that time.
Same, but I was somehow still
But
talking
you did
for an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, some dude showed up.
Guy showed up and he said, "Hey, do you still do XYZ trick?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "I use that to pass my Magic Castle audition."
Oh,
which is amazing. And like, I hear from guys, it's mostly the close-up stuff. I think that this is maybe an incorrect observation, but I don't know. Or there just aren't as many people doing stand-up. But I think that my stand-up material is my close-up material is stylized, but it's in a way that people could do it. Like it's the big contact lens and this thing, and the things that I pick, I think you can kind of apply to yourself if you are in a close-up setting. But if you're selling tickets at a show, my style is very much like, you kind of got to look like this and talk like this and act like this to get away with some of it. Like the handcuffs is a trick that a lot of people reach out to me about. And I've never heard of anybody actually doing it. I've heard about, maybe I've had 2 guys send me a thing that says like, I've done it at a talent show, or I've done it here, I've done it there. There's a TV show that's talking about using it that you probably could guess. But they still haven't figured out a couple of the bugs that I think were things that my way of being kind of fixed on its own. It was just one of those kind of magic happenings that I was not in control of, so that when you put it in someone else's hands, it kind of creates issues. And that in that routine, it's kind of like, slightly politically correct issues, like you're handcuffing yourself to a stranger. So is it the fact that I was younger than I am now, and I look like I am, and hopefully I'm not threatening, and I stage cue the woman that's going to happen, and if she's cool with it, or she's not claustrophobic or anything, and had a good joke to get into it, it wasn't just like a creepy thing. And so a guy reads it in a book, even though I put 10 warnings in there, like, hey, find a way for this to be cool. Like maybe you handcuff yourself to a briefcase or something.
To a chair or whatever.
Escape from a radiator was one of my but it's like whatever. So I think that when a 55-year-old man in a leather jacket does the same trick and handcuffs himself to a woman that he's never met before, the eyeballs on that are a little different.
Totally.
And so, but I don't think what I put in the book was in any way problematic. No. It's just...
but this is like... This, like all of these things, any joke, anything said, they could... irony in one person can be one thing, and if somebody else says it, then it's awful. And there's nothing wrong with holding hands.
Right.
Yet when we saw that show a while ago here, the way that guy held that young woman's hand and led her up to the stage.
A kid's hand.
Even though there was nothing really that happened, but just going, in this day and age, your age versus that girl's age, and the fact that you said you were gonna not saw her in half, and then you did, which is actually, that's not tricking, like as in how a magic trick works. That's outright lying. And but anyway, so then you go, there's like, because I don't think there's anything wrong in that routine, and there's so many little jokes that for some people can be off and others can't be. It's
for sure. And I think maybe, if I had done it when I was 60 or something, maybe it would be different.
Yeah.
But you
got to find the right way. Well, how do you make that thing funny? How do you make it so that the person who you do it to actually love it, and so that they laugh and that they're having a great time? And sometimes it can be, we talked about this, I think, in the first episode we recorded, of choosing, for instance, an older lady. Not choosing someone who could be offended, but for choosing somebody who is there just to have a good time, and they are comfortable with themselves and their body, and comfortable with the fact, in your case then, that you look like a very young guy when you're doing it. Younger than you actually are, and that there's lots of fun to be had with that. And so sometimes you just got, it's not sometimes, you always have to be aware of the dynamics of the situation.
And I think I start off super low status too. Like, in Mac and I both actively do stuff to, in that first 10 minutes, like really kind of set expectations. Even, Mac talks about, like, if you start at this level of social whatever, and that the show brings them to this higher point, the point that you can reach, if you can start off even lower status, then the journey feels much greater.
Yeah, that's right. I think you mentioned that on the podcast as well.
Yeah,
that's right. It's
if not, have him talk more about it, because I think he's got incredible thoughts on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think I have always done that, like, and even more now. Recently, we talked about, like, my sleeve length and not having shoulder pads and, like, all this stuff where, like, I look kind of derpy in some senses, but any guy who wears who wears a suit to look good is completely different.
Yeah.
But we talked about that's old news. The thing, I think, so my close-up stuff is way more within reach of a lot of people. I think that my stand-up stuff that I teach or that I have taught, is not as, I don't want to say it's not commercial.
No, but because it's not commercial, because it is where you make your money. Yeah. But it is idiosyncratic, and so idiosyncratic that if somebody else does it, it's really weird.
Feels
like, so you have a very peculiar form of humor, in the same way that I have a very peculiar form of humor, and it's not an easy thing to replicate, because it's connected to, like you say, the amount of detail. You have thought of your sleeve length and how your jacket sits on you, how would all those first jokes that you do before you even start doing the first trick set you up as a reliable, as a well-rounded character, not just a caricature or whatever. If somebody starts doing those jokes, like I might have said on the podcast before, but I was listening to a lot of Bill Hicks, and I did some ironic line that he did, and it just got nothing. But I think it was just along this thing going, I love it. So nice to be here wherever it is.
Right.
I always love it when I'm here. But because of the way that I am as a character, they genuinely think that I do. So the irony was lost, and it was just something that I said. Because I'm when I come out on stage, you really do get the impression that I am excited to be here.
Right.
So when you're saying that you're excited to be here, I always like it when I'm here, wherever this is, that's no more weird than I say that I brought this next body part I brought with me all the way in from Norway, especially for this.
I think but I think that, like Caveney's thing, or like the the book that I actively love the most, that I do the least out of, is the Mullica book, because his stuff is so specific and stylized, and so much.
I haven't read that. Tom Mullica, who was famous, so he won FISM one year, a long time ago,
I think he got disqualified from FISM.
Oh, did he?
Because they thought he wasn't doing a trick.
Oh.
So they took when he did it in Den Haag, something like that, they disqualified him because they said it wasn't
magic enough.
Magic.
So he does eating cigarettes and everything. That's one of the things he did. He does many things, but yeah. So his book,
the main piece with so this book was written, and Richard Kaufman, who I love, one of my favorite authors, and one of the most interesting people that I talk to, is like so adamant. I've given him shit for this. He's so adamant that that's like not a good book. He wrote it, and he goes, no one's ever going to do any of that stuff.
Oh.
No one, he goes, nobody's going to do the cigarettes. Nobody's going to do the gum and these like gross things.
Yeah.
And to me, having a book with photos of that material and seeing the thinking behind it and seeing there's a timeline in it of his whole show, every joke and the timestamp of when he does this bit and when he pulls the gas pump out of the curtain and when he does the cigarettes and when the music comes on. It's unbelievable. And I go, what fucking other magic book has my favorite act written up in this way? Like, so I learned a lot from that book, but I don't perform any of it, which I think is a big part of why those books exist. And I would hope that that's what some people get. Like, the only weird thing about my book is that it's the material that it's not the material that most people in magic know me for, right? It's stuff that was first album.
But this is almost like people, you're writing one type of book while and even in your lecture, you're not lecturing, which is, you're saying the lecture and the book is similar in a way. Some of the stuff in the lecture is in the book and vice versa.
Yeah.
But you don't want to give the audience your show because that's what you're actually making a living from, and you don't want to be randomly find yourself on a bill where somebody else opens for you and does one of your acts.
And there is something to keeping secrets. There's literally, not just in a like practical sense. I think that in magic, it's cool to, like, I work with a couple friends where I don't really want to know. I've seen this act 30 times and I don't really know how it works, but I kind of have to keep some kind of like candle lit in this circle. So there's still something in it I still like the feeling of being fooled, and I like the feeling of not knowing everything about it. And that's the whole point, and that's why we got into it. So it's,
I've gotten better at as well. It's like I used to go away and think about it a lot. Now I am so comfortable with the fact that when I'm watching someone, when we sat at the diner table and Jason did 100 different crazy things,
so good.
After he had done the first one, I stop looking or stop caring how it is that he does it, because you're just watching a master doing so many slides that are so beyond what I would ever learn that it's not interesting for me to try and go, did he just pick two cards? Did he just take that card out of the center of the deck without me noticing it?
That's a legit thing too, though, that being in either a positive way or a negative way, and I've talked to Tyler about this, being beat down by magic, not in a positive way.
Yeah, but that you get angry almost, like,
but it could go either way. It either works in your favor, like there's a couple tricks that I think once I've done 5 or 6 things, or maybe 3 or 4 things, or 2 things, they kind of accept, like, oh, he's good, so he does this thing and it fooled me, and he does this thing. That's cool. I don't know how that works, but it gives me a little bit of intrigue and whatever. Or satisfaction is another feeling that people feel when they look at magic. Whatever you're going for. But then there comes a point where, like, and Mullica for sure had this on the show, where once you've kind of broken down the audience for 40 minutes, it's like comedy where, and this is a well-documented thing, I think, we see certain comedians where they do their first 15 minutes and they kind of like teach the audience how to laugh in their cadence. So they do a little intonation at the end of their jokes, and that this is the end of it, or they smack their knee, or they stomp their foot, or whatever, and you've trained the audience, which that's a known thing. Or people, these comedians that I listen to, where I'm only listening to 3 or 4, it's very common now on Instagram and TikTok where they're cutting out 15 or 20 second, 30 second clips of people's acts that I've never seen before. And they go, I was down at the deli and the bagels were like this because I don't eat bagels like that. And then they have this percussive thing that makes the audience laugh. And if you're just hearing that one little clip, I've caught on to that a lot with 3 or 4 comics that I see pop up on my Instagram feed where I just go like, what if you don't
that thing?
but
you hear it even just recently when we were watching the 2 different comedians that have been here at Mad Apple in Las Vegas. It there is sometimes it's also just you say you're doing the joke and you go and as like
breaking the silence
recently
sometimes.
now going, oh, here's the deal. So you deliver the line and you go, well, so you go and that's how I knew it was my uncle. And here's the deal.
Those,
But you aren't actually going to say something now. You're just giving that flavor of like I'm empty spacing here going.
Yep.
So
I've
it's
totally
so true. It's a thing.
from that.
And anyway, what's interesting as well though about that material is like also, and what with yours as well, it reminds me of what me and Jay Gilligan talked about in a previous episode where we talked about Danny D'Artise.
Sure.
Because he also does material and does methods and stuff that comes from, it's so idiosyncratic to him that you can't do it. That whole thing that he does with the, he says something in his broken English which he knows they won't understand, and then he can count the cards down onto the table in one of the most unnatural moves that we have, where you have to count them down and then they're going to count them later. But you're actually doing shit with the cards.
One of my favorites is, and I think...
So they don't know what it is, and then they go, excuse me, and he goes, I said count them down like this, but he didn't say that. And then shows the tick, tack, 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 and then he puts them back and then do it, and the method is woven into...
It's like trying to get a cab driver in another country to tell you where, you're trying to, I need to go to the hotel at this place. And he goes, what? And you go, way around, and you're doing hand signals and shit. But Danny speaks great English.
And he, in whatever lecture I saw, he goes, he says it, and then, and I never say it. I say something which they cannot understand, but I say it, and I give them the deck, and I look at them, and now there's no way they can follow the instructions because you gave them in a way so they have no idea. And then he goes, oh, excuse me, and then he shows like this, tack, 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 and he counts them down, which so now the method is set up, and it seems like it was just an
interaction.
It seems like nothing has actually happened. We're about to do something now, but it's not this. Because this is just because I tried to get you to do it, you didn't do it. I go, do like this, and then they do it, and then but now it's you're clean to go because the method has happened on
necessary procedure.
So, but this one I can't do that because after I have spoken in my act, there's no I can't use that kind of technique because it's woven into his character so much. He speaks broken English. That's part of who he is. He speaks maybe better than he does in his show, but. For us, for you then, it's that same thing. You come out and you look like that. So when you get the woman on stage, or when you get it's a totally different thing than anyone else. And that's that. I'm sure with Tom Mullica's material in Greater Magic or wherever, that also is like that. It's so idiosyncratic that you go, oh, no one can do this because.
Well, and it plays into the same thing, where you're talking about being not beat down, but you get, once you've broken through that threshold with a crowd, there's tricks in, I'm sure I could find an example of Tom's show, but I can't think of it right this second, but in almost any magic show where, or in anybody's repertoire, maybe is a better way to say it, but there's stuff that you can get away with that you would never be able to open with. A trick that maybe the method is a little more blunt or a little more heavy-handed or a little more math-based or whatever, that when they think that you're doing these other things, then you've got this fucking lead pipe cinch where you're kind of able to get away with a non-trick, but they're a little bit beaten down by that stuff. So there's a positive to that feeling and a negative to that feeling for sure. There's also, I think the negative 100% is the okay, well, we're 4 tricks in, and this, we've talked about this, the kind of like what I call, and I'm sure, you know, this won't be what ends up in the book eventually, but like calling it piss magic, where they just do this like, name a card, 3 of hearts, bap, and they do it, and they name a card, 4 of spades, bap, and they do all this shit. Oh, what's the one on the table? 7 of diamonds. That's the one you said? Yep, okay. Deal down, spell your mom's name, 4 of hearts. They just think you can kind of do that shit at that point. So then the feeling that I have 100% seen most of the time that I see that being put forward is I don't give a shit anymore. So fool me or not,
we're just hanging out now. And
why am I here?
Yeah.
And they go to the next room in the venue, or they go to the next, you know, they kind of wait for you to go to the next table in the restaurant kind of thing. Like, and it's super common now, because I think there's that exact happening with card magic, where guys hear about jazzing and they've never really seen like Juan or Ossie or Eric Mead or these guys where it's like this beautifully woven piece. They just hear the term like jazzing and they have that tool and they think that it just means like I have control over everything in the deck and I know where, and I do have full control over the entire deck and I can just produce any cards at will. And so it becomes this like skill demonstration where I've never seen people give less of a shit because they think you can just do that. Probably
it's true, and that's in a sense then kind of what happens as well. It's like I'm thoroughly enjoying it when I'm watching him doing it.
Totally,
just now sitting at the diner. But
what Jason's doing, I think, is completely different even too, right?
Yeah, but it's that same kind of feeling, or like you're talking about the positive or the negative, because I'm loving what I'm seeing, but you can also get that where that's right, where you go, you just have this feeling like there's no structure to what I'm watching. It's just anything that we say or come up with, he comes up with something and saying pick 4 cards or 3, and then we'll pick them, and I'll go and one was under the cup there the whole time, and one is over here, and one is in my hat. Oh, great, okay. And then like how about you say 2 cards? So and you just have this feeling like it doesn't matter what happens now, he's going to somehow have it, so that it's like you're doing. What would that be though? It's like it doesn't have like a beginning, middle, and an end. It doesn't have a structure enough where it builds up, where it feels like, oh, here we're watching these 3 or 4 things that are totally unique in the world. Yeah. It's like a guy that basically knows where every card is in the deck. So when whatever I say or do, he'll be able to find it. And if not, then he just shuffles them a little bit. And I know that it looks like they're being shuffled, but somehow
there's
now
no way
he knows
are.
where it is.
Yeah. And I think it's also like even if they don't have the exact method, but they know like the one thing that we're talking about is so specific, but I think
we gotta go.
Yeah. But I think that it is like that's a deep rabbit hole we could get into at some point about that kind of stuff. But
and anyway, I was going to sort of try to wrap it back up to secrets, because now we're in this way of like I don't know what the secret is here. And you could easily imagine it also that it happens with like Leonard Green as well, or like to some extent also with Danny D'Ortiz. The card, I don't know what's going on here, but the cards look like they're flying everywhere, but somehow, most so with Leonard Green, because the cards are flipping around and falling on the table and being upside down, and then he turns them all, and then by the time he's finished doing 4 or 5 tricks, then he takes this K of cards and wraps them all up, and then they are there in new deck order: ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, clubs, diamond, hearts, spades, and they're wrapped up. So somehow, whilst everything else was going on and you were taking cards and they fell on the floor and they put them back in, all the cards are actually in the same order, which is almost like the perfect sort of thing of...
Well, it also, like, to me, and what I was going to get
So
into.
you feel like the method is just that this guy is a ninja of cards. It doesn't matter what happens. He knows where every card is at any time, and it doesn't matter what we do to try to make them come in another order. After your best efforts, they're all in exactly aligned.
And I think Leonard for sure has the perfect balance of that, where it's like the character too is subdued and maybe seems spacey at times, and it's just kind of talking about this thing or that thing or the laser or this thing as he's shuffling the cards and they drop all over the place. So it's not like he's actively going, throw the deck in the air. Here's the 4 aces. I don't give a shit. I could do anything. It's this very like non-suave, it almost seems non-active, but he is clearly the one doing the tricks.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was literally about to say that I think kind of does wrap this up in a decent way is that can also be harmful in a like magician in trouble scenario. And a lot of people, they use that cliche. They talk, the magician in trouble. He says, is it the 2 of hearts? And they go, no. And I do this in my show. There's 3 distinct moments of that, of like, isn't and then is kind of thing, but they feel very different, I think. But the thing I see in close-up a lot when they're doing this kind of stuff is they keep doing it in the same vein. So they'll go, it's the 2 of hearts. What was that? You picked the 9 of hearts? What's the 9 of hearts? And they go to the next thing, and this thing, every single trick is, we found the 4 aces. But you asked for 7s. Bump, it's 4 7s. So now when those situations arise again, all that tension is gone. There's no real vibe in the room anymore. It's just like,
I don't know what it is, but
keeps,
but it's wrong. They get wrong. So then they stop believing in that thing, and they think that you can somehow just do whatever it is.
It's all just a put on.
So yeah, it's a really interesting thing. So when Leonard Green at the end shows that all cards are in the perfect order, after that being absolutely completely impossible, it's like that's the punchline of the act or whatever, and then you go, okay, that's how he did it. He's a master. But if this is not done right, then it is like, I don't know what you're doing, but you somehow know where all the cards are, and that's what you've done with your life, that you know how to do this, and it somehow belittles it, or so that you stop caring about whatever plot or so whatever structure you have in mind for your trick. When they pick a card, they go, this doesn't matter because you're going to soon just find it. I don't know if it's going to be under my cup or in your hat, but the card is going to be found somewhere, and I don't actually, none of this surprises me. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. They think they know, don't know what it is, but they've worked out which genre of secrets it is, and it's just like he's got unlimited card control. Yeah, which is an impossible thing kind of to have, but yeah, that's it. So you think you have the secrets, but you don't actually, and that's part of the secret.
Yeah, I think we've totally got. We got another discussion about the gray area.
Yeah,
stuff.
we do. We did, but that's good. I thought we would nail it now, but we didn't.
Someday.
And now we have to go to McKing's and play croquet. So if we're going to buy something on the way now, then we're going to be late. So we got to hurry.
Well, I'm known for being late to that. I don't know if you noticed yet.
Yeah, but now I'm driving you, so he thought that I was going to get you there on time.
This is all just to put up.
Oh, man. As I listen to this, I am just... astonished at how much fun it was and how great it was to go to Disneyland and go to Magic Castle and to hang out with Mac King and hang out with Nick Difatte as we went to California. It was really, really a highlight of a trip to America last, which was already really good by working in Mad Apple and everything. But wow. And then these episodes are these beautiful glimpses into, because it felt like this kind of conversation that you've just heard was going on for days on end with me and Nick, and with Mac as well, but especially with me and Nick all the time. So I'm glad that we turned on the recorder every now and then and focused our chatting. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again in the next episode. And until then, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.